Pittsburgh, 1887. A steel magnate's wife, vanished. From a locked mansion, no trace, no entry, no exit. A ghost in the machine. This truth you were never meant to hear. It began on a frigid December morning in 1887. Cornelius Vandermark, a titan of industry, the most powerful man in Pittsburgh, descended the marble staircase of his opulent Fifth Avenue mansion. He expected the usual morning tableau. Instead, he found a scene that would haunt him for the rest of his days. Evangelene Vandermark, his wife, was gone. But her emerald evening gown, a garment she had been seen wearing just 4 hours earlier, lay perfectly arrayed on the plush Persian rug of their grand foyer. Still warm to the touch, as if her presence had just moments before evaporated from its silk embrace. But Evangelene herself was nowhere to be found. The mansion's heavy front door remained locked from the inside, a silent, unyielding sentinel. Every window, meticulously sealed against the bitter Pennsylvania winter, stood unbroken, undisturbed. Not a single servant, and the Vandermark estate employed a substantial, highly trained staff, had seen or heard anything unusual during the night. The Pittsburgh Police Department, feeling the immense pressure of Vandermark's political connections, officially closed the case after a mere 6 days, citing an inexplicable lack of evidence of foul play. But the truth about what happened to Evangelene Vandermark that December night was far more sinister, far more intricately woven into the dark fabric of Pittsburgh's gilded society than anyone could have imagined. This was not a random act. This was the final, brutal act in a drama that had been unfolding for over 2 years, a deadly game of cat and mouse between a woman desperately seeking justice for her murdered father and a husband whose industrial empire was built on the very bones of his enemies. What investigators never discovered was the chilling abyss Evangelene had stepped into. And now, you will. To truly comprehend the chilling disappearance of Evangelene Vandermark, one must first descend into the very heart of the city that consumed her. The winter of 1887 found Pittsburgh not merely prosperous, but at the zenith of its industrial glory. It was a titan forged of steel and coal, a city where unimaginable fortunes were not just made, but brutally carved from the raw earth. The colossal smokestacks of countless factories painted the sky in perpetual shades of grey, a perpetual twilight that seemed to cloak the city's true nature. The very air itself, thick with coal smoke, and the desperate, burning dreams of thousands of immigrants who had flocked to America seeking their fortune in the blazing furnaces of Pennsylvania's mills, seemed to carry the oppressive weight of ambition and desperation. This was a city of stark, almost violent contradictions. Magnificent mansions, their stone gargoyles leering down from gilded heights, stood just blocks away from squalid, disease-ridden tenements, a visual testament to the brutal class divide. Here, a man could rise from the crushing grip of poverty to unimaginable, almost tyrannical wealth in a matter of months. Or, just as swiftly, he could fall from grace, vanish into the abyss, his life extinguished in an unmarked grave, his very existence erased in the relentless churn of industrial progress. This volatile environment, a crucible of unchecked ambition and raw survival, provided the perfect, fertile ground for the kind of dark power plays and hidden agendas that would ultimately claim Evangelene Vandermark. The city itself was a monstrous entity, a living, breathing testament to the hidden price of empire. The Vandermark mansion stood not merely as a residence, but as a chilling testament to this new American aristocracy, a physical manifestation of unchecked power. It was a 4-story Gothic revival masterpiece, a dark behemoth that arrogantly dominated an entire city block on Fifth Avenue, its formidable towers and sharp turrets casting long, oppressive shadows over the Allegheny River below. The very building was a monument to excess, an architectural declaration of absolute dominion. Its facade boasted hand-carved stone gargoyles, imported from ancient French quarries, their grotesque faces seemingly leering down at the city below. Stained glass windows depicted not saints, but triumphant scenes of industrial might, a testament to Cornelius's unyielding ambition. A grand ballroom, a gilded cage, could comfortably accommodate 300 of Pittsburgh's elite, its opulent grandeur a stage for the city's powerful. The mansion's grounds mirrored its owner's boundless appetite for control, sprawling across 4 meticulously maintained acres of gardens, greenhouse conservatories, and an array of outbuildings. These included a carriage house vast enough to swallow a dozen vehicles, testament to the Vandermarks' vast fleet. Servants' quarters, almost a village in themselves, housed the estate's substantial staff, a silent army of unseen labor. But among these structures, one stood apart, imbued with a quiet, sinister foreboding: the mysterious ice house. A seemingly innocuous utility building, yet it possessed a chilling aura, a sense of hidden purpose that would later intertwine itself inextricably with the dark events to come. It was a place designed for preservation, yes, but also for concealment. A cold, silent witness awaiting its crucial, horrifying role in the disappearance that would haunt Pittsburgh's Gilded society. Cornelius Vandermark, the undisputed master of this industrial empire, was a man who had forged his dominion from nothing. His origins were humble, his ascent brutal. He began as a common laborer, his hands calloused and scarred by the searing heat and punishing rhythm of the steel mills. But within him burned a fierce, almost predatory intellect that revolutionized production processes, transforming him from a faceless worker into one of the wealthiest men in all of America. At 52, he was an imposing figure, his steel-gray hair a stark frame for piercing blue eyes that seemed to possess an unnerving ability to see straight through anyone who dared to cross him in business, dissecting their intentions, exposing their weaknesses. His hands, though now softened by years of unimaginable prosperity, still bore the indelible marks of his brutal ascent. The calluses and scars of his early days working the roaring furnaces, a constant physical reminder of the brutal world he had clawed his way out of. His rise was a testament to both brilliant engineering insight and utterly ruthless business practices. But those who had known Cornelius in his formative years, those who remembered the idealistic young inventor who genuinely believed his innovations could elevate working conditions for all steel workers, often remarked on the chilling transformation. The visionary idealist had calcified into a cold, unfeeling industrial titan, a man who would, without hesitation, orchestrate the deaths of anyone who dared to threaten his burgeoning empire. The whispers were consistent, the evidence unspoken. His vast fortune was not merely built on steel, it was built on blood, on secrets, and on the chilling reality that human lives were simply another expendable resource in his relentless pursuit of power. He was an architect of industry and a master of oblivion. Cornelius Vandermark's ascent to unimaginable power was not achieved through innovation alone. It was forged in the crucible of a brutal, unforgiving era. In the cutthroat, blood-soaked landscape of 1880s industrial America, success demanded more than mere ambition. It required a chilling willingness to employ methods so utterly ruthless, so morally depraved, that they would make even the most hardened robber baron pause. Vandermark, a keen student of power, had learned early that competitors could be eliminated through means far more permanent, far more final than simple market competition. A strategically placed fire here, a sudden, unexplained boiler explosion there, the mysterious, irreversible disappearance of a rival's key engineer. These were the grim tools of industrial warfare, wielded without compunction in an age where government oversight was a mere suggestion, and the very apparatus of law enforcement could be bought for the price of a politician's campaign fund. It was into this morally bankrupt world, built on a foundation of hidden bodies and suppressed truths, that his marriage to Evangelene Hartwell in 1882 arrived like a dazzling, deceptive light. Their union was the social event of the decade, a grand spectacle designed to elevate his industrial empire into the rarefied air of social legitimacy. She was the daughter of a prominent Boston banking family, 20 years his junior, her auburn hair catching the light like spun copper, her laugh capable of filling an entire ballroom. At 25, Evangelene possessed a refined beauty and a sophisticated education that marked her as a true member of New England's old money aristocracy. She spoke fluent French and German, played the piano with near-professional skill, her intellect honed by the finest education available to women of her social class at Miss Porter's school in Connecticut. But beneath that polished exterior, beneath the veneer of societal grace, lay a sharp, unyielding intelligence and a moral compass, a true, unwavering moral compass that would inevitably set her on a terrifying collision course with her husband's monstrous criminal empire. Their marriage, a calculated alliance of power and innocence, was about to unravel into an abyss. Their wedding, a dazzling spectacle that mesmerized Pittsburgh's elite, was, for Cornelius, a cold, calculated maneuver. Far from a union of hearts, it was a strategic alliance, meticulously designed to provide his burgeoning industrial empire with the crucial social legitimacy that only a bond with Boston's old banking elite could offer. The Hartwell family's vast network of connections flung open doors throughout New England's cloistered financial community, granting Vandermark access to the massive loans necessary to unleash the full, relentless expansion of his steel production, to devour smaller competitors, to solidify his dominion. Evangelene, tragically, entered this grand pact blinded by noble ideals. She believed, with a fervent, almost heartbreaking sincerity, that she was aligning herself with a man whose revolutionary innovations in steel could genuinely uplift the lives of American workers. She envisioned progress, shared prosperity, a future built on ingenuity. She remained utterly unaware, utterly innocent of the chilling truth. Her new husband, the visionary industrialist, viewed human life as nothing more than another raw resource, another expendable commodity to be exploited, to be consumed, in his insatiable pursuit of profit and power. But by the harsh winter of 1887, the carefully constructed facade began to crack. Those who moved within the intimate, gilded circles of Pittsburgh's elite began to whisper. All was not well in the Vandermark household. Evangelene, once the vibrant, sparkling centerpiece of Pittsburgh's glittering social scene, the very embodiment of grace and charm, had retreated. Over the past year, she had grown increasingly withdrawn, her light dimming under the weight of an unspoken, terrifying truth. The realization of her husband's true empire, built on the bones of his enemies, was slowly, irrevocably consuming her. Evangelene, once the luminous center of Pittsburgh's social scene, now retreated into the vast, echoing solitude of the Vandermark mansion. Her sanctuary became the sprawling, magnificent library, a room where floor-to-ceiling shelves groaned under the weight of over 3,000 volumes. It was a collection that ranged from pristine first editions of literary classics to dense scientific treatises. But it was the extensive collection of books on American industrial history, meticulously accumulated by Evangelene since her arrival in Pittsburgh, that held her captive. Here, amidst the quiet reverence of knowledge, she spent hours, driven by a relentless, consuming purpose, writing. Her thoughts, her questions, her chilling discoveries, all committed to the pages of a leather-bound journal, a diary she kept fiercely guarded, locked away in her personal writing desk, its small brass key worn on a chain around her neck, a secret held closer than any jewel. The household staff, trained in the art of discreet observation, noticed the subtle shifts in their mistress's routine. She began taking long, solitary walks at odd hours, often returning with muddy boots, her green eyes holding a distant, haunted look. These clandestine excursions frequently led her far from the gilded cage of Fifth Avenue, drawing her into the grimy, smoke-choked labyrinth of Pittsburgh's working-class neighborhoods. There, amidst the soot and the struggle, she spoke with the wives and children of the mill workers, listening, learning firsthand about the dangerous, brutal conditions, the frequent, often fatal accidents that plagued the city's industrial workforce. What the loyal servants did not know, what they could not possibly comprehend, was the true, terrifying nature of these conversations. They were not mere acts of charity. They were part of Evangelene's relentless, growing investigation, a meticulous, dangerous pursuit into the suspicious, horrifying patterns of industrial accidents that seemed to follow in her husband's wake, a grim, undeniable shadow wherever his vast, brutal business interests led him. She was compiling a case, and it would threaten to bring down an empire. The Vandermark estate, a fortress of opulence and silent surveillance, relied upon a meticulously chosen cadre of servants. These were not mere employees, they were extensions of Cornelius's will, selected not only for their impeccable skills, but for their unwavering discretion and absolute unyielding loyalty to the family. Yet in the chilling aftermath of Evangelene's disappearance, some of these silent witnesses would become crucial, their loyalty tested by the unfolding nightmare. There was Margaret Sullivan, the formidable Irish head housekeeper. Having fled the devastating potato famine of the 1870s, she had overseen the mansion's daily operations for nearly a decade. A woman of fierce intelligence and unshakable moral principles, Margaret's qualities had made her invaluable to the Vandermark household, and tragically, they would make her a crucial, tormented witness to the strange, impossible events surrounding Evangelene's vanishing. Thomas Brennan, the gruff Scottish groundskeeper, had arrived in America in 1868, escaping the economic desolation of the Highland clearances. He poured his pride into maintaining the estate's sprawling grounds to absolute perfection, but his keen eye for detail, his intimate, almost obsessive knowledge of every inch of the property, would later reveal disturbing, undeniable signs that someone had been using the estate for purposes far darker than anyone could possibly imagine. Charles Henley, the mansion's impeccable butler, a man trained in the finest traditions of English domestic service, prided himself on absolute professional discretion. He was privy to every social function, privy to many of the family's most private conversations. Yet even his carefully cultivated neutrality would be shattered by the increasingly bizarre and frightening events that consumed Evangelene's final months within the mansion. And finally, Dr. Franklin Westbrook, the Vandermark family physician for over 5 years, a respected graduate of Harvard Medical School. Dr. Westbrook had, in the months leading up to her disappearance, begun to notice troubling, inexplicable changes in Evangelene's behavior and physical condition. His private medical notes, later discovered, revealed his growing concern about what he euphemistically termed marital difficulties that were exacting an increasingly severe toll on his patient's mental and physical well-being. These were all souls sworn to discretion and loyalty. The Vandermark household operated with the chilling precision of a fine timepiece, every servant knowing their exact duties, their schedule down to the minute. This rigid order, this meticulous surveillance, made it virtually impossible for anyone to enter or leave the mansion unnoticed. A terrifying fact that would ultimately make Evangelene's mysterious vanishing seem all the more supernatural, for those who did not yet understand the darker forces at work behind the scenes. The city of Pittsburgh itself seemed to hold its breath during that bitter winter of 1887. The very air, thick with the soot of industry, vibrated with an unspoken tension, as if sensing that the colossal forces of change and violence, the very engines that had forged its rapid growth, were poised to claim yet another victim. The recent Haymarket riot in distant Chicago, a brutal clash between labor and capital, had sent shockwaves, tremors of fear and unrest through America's industrial centers. In Pittsburgh, the crucible of steel and coal, the city's own labor movements, fueled by desperation and injustice, were growing increasingly organized, increasingly militant in their demands. They clamored for safer working conditions, for fair wages, for a sliver of dignity in a system designed to exploit. It was into this volatile, combustible atmosphere that far more sinister whispers began to emerge, tales, hushed and terrifying, of a secret organization, a cabal of industrialists, not merely banding together for mutual profit, but for absolute dominion. They were men who operated beyond the law, beyond morality, sworn to maintain their iron grip on power through any means necessary, and their means were brutal. They included the systematic elimination of anyone, any competitor, any labor organizer, any voice of dissent, who dared to threaten their absolute control over America's burgeoning industrial empire. This was not mere cutthroat business. This was a conspiracy of immense scale, cloaked in the shadows of boardrooms and back alleys, where human lives were weighed against corporate profits and the price of power was paid in blood. Evangelene Vandermark, in her relentless pursuit of justice, was unknowingly closing in on the terrifying heart of this very organization, and her discovery would seal her fate. The events of December the 12th, 1887, unfolded with the grim, precise routine that governed daily life in the Vandermark mansion, a testament to the rigid psychological control exerted by its master. Margaret Sullivan, the vigilant head housekeeper, would later testify to serving dinner to Mr. and Mrs. Vandermark in the formal dining room at precisely 7:00 p.m., as was their unyielding custom. The dining room itself was a masterpiece of Victorian excess, a stage for power, a massive mahogany table capable of seating 24 guests, bathed in the glittering light of a crystal chandelier imported from Bohemia, its walls adorned with oil paintings depicting Cornelius's industrial triumphs. The meal was opulent: roasted pheasant, winter vegetables, and a bottle of 1878 Chateau Margaux, a wine so costly it surpassed a Pittsburgh worker's monthly wage. But amidst this display of wealth, Evangelene seemed unnaturally quiet. She barely touched her food, her responses to Cornelius's animated conversation reduced to brief nods and hushed murmurs. What struck Margaret as most profoundly unusual was the way Evangelene kept glancing towards the dining room windows, as if expecting to see someone, or something, approaching through the snow-covered grounds. Margaret would later tell Detective Samuel Crawford that Evangelene had the look of a woman who knew something terrible was coming, a chilling premonition in her eyes. It was as if she was trying to memorize every detail of the room, as if she knew it might be the last time she'd ever see it. Cornelius, in stark contrast, appeared to be in unusually high spirits that evening, speaking animatedly about a new steel contract. Yet Charles Henley, the meticulous butler serving the meal with his characteristic silent efficiency, noticed a subtle anomaly. Despite his cheerful demeanor, Cornelius kept checking his pocket watch throughout dinner, a repeated gesture that screamed of a predetermined event, a chilling appointment to be kept at a specific, unseen time. The stage was set. The final act was about to begin. At precisely 9:30 p.m., Margaret Sullivan, with the meticulous care of a trusted confidant, helped Evangelene prepare for bed. What transpired next would forever haunt the housekeeper, etching itself into her soul with the cold precision of a nightmare. Margaret assisted her mistress into an emerald silk evening gown, a breathtaking creation Evangelene often wore for grand entertainments. Yet no guests were expected that evening. This detail, seemingly trivial, would later perplex investigators, for Evangelene typically chose simpler nightclothes when retiring. The elaborate, impossibly opulent gown seemed utterly inappropriate for a quiet night alone in the mansion. The gown itself was a masterpiece, imported from the heart of Parisian couture at a cost of nearly $500, its intricate beadwork catching the flickering gaslight, creating an almost ethereal glow as Evangelene moved. Margaret remembered complimenting the exquisite beadwork, and Evangelene had smiled, the first genuine expression of happiness the housekeeper had witnessed from her mistress in weeks. But along with that fleeting smile, something else, something far darker, transpired. Evangelene embraced Margaret, holding her tightly for several long, silent seconds, whispering, "Thank you for your kindness, Margaret. You've been like a mother to me these past years." At the time, Margaret felt deeply touched by the unexpected display of affection, but looking back, in the chilling clarity of retrospect, she realized it had felt very much like a goodbye. Evangelene had looked almost relieved, Margaret would later tell the police, like a great weight had been lifted from her shoulders. But beneath that fleeting relief, another current swirled, a kind of terrible sadness, a profound, soul-weary resignation, as if she knew, with an absolute certainty, that she was about to lose everything she held dear. Her final act of grace, a chilling prelude to the abyss that awaited her. In the quiet intimacy of that final preparation for bed, Margaret's keen eye caught another detail that would later haunt her. Evangelene was wearing a piece of jewelry Margaret had never before seen, a small, silver locket suspended from a thin chain around her neck. When Margaret, her voice light with curiosity, commented on it, Evangelene simply offered a cryptic response. It contained, she said, something precious that must be preserved. But she refused to open it, refused to explain its profound significance. The locket itself was ornate, its design featuring intricate Celtic knotwork that spoke of Irish craftsmanship, a peculiar, almost out-of-place artifact amidst Evangelene's usual collection of expensive, understated jewels. It pulsed with a silent mystery. Hours later, as the mansion settled into the deep, frigid quiet of the December night, Thomas Brennan, the meticulous Scottish groundskeeper, made his final rounds of the estate's vast perimeter. At precisely 11 p.m., he reported seeing a light burning in Evangelene's private study on the second floor. Through the frost-covered window, he observed her silhouette. Seated at her writing desk, her pen moved steadily, almost frantically, across paper. This was the last confirmed sighting of Evangelene Vandermark alive. Thomas, a man whose keen eye missed little, would later recall thinking at the time that something in her posture, in the very tension of her silhouette, suggested not the calm correspondence that usually occupied her evening hours, but a raw, desperate urgency, a frantic race against an unseen clock. Evangelene, the keeper of dangerous secrets, was engaged in a final, desperate act of defiance, and the locket, silent against her skin, held a truth that would soon be lost or buried. From his vantage point on the frosty grounds, Thomas Brennan could not pierce the veil of glass and frost. He could not witness the terrifying truth unfolding inside Evangelene's private study. The room, her sanctuary, decorated with cherished mementos from her Boston childhood, was not merely a space for quiet contemplation. It was a war room, filled with books and personal papers that represented her true intellectual hunger. It had become the epicenter of her desperate, singular crusade. That night, Evangelene was engaged in what she knew, with a chilling certainty, would be her final act of documentation, a race against an unseen clock. Her pen moved with frantic urgency, committing to paper a detailed, damning account of everything she had discovered about her husband's sprawling criminal activities. It was a meticulous record of the systematic murder campaign that had, through his insidious orchestration, eliminated dozens of his competitors and silenced countless potential threats. The study itself bore witness to months of her painstaking, dangerous investigation. Hidden behind seemingly innocent volumes, concealed beneath layers of academic respectability, lay photographs, damning documents, and illicit correspondence that together revealed the true, horrifying scope of the Pittsburgh Circle's activities. Maps of Pennsylvania and neighboring states were grim tapestries, marked not by geographical features, but by ominous red pins. Each pin denoted the location of a suspicious industrial accident, each a murder, each accompanied by Evangelene's meticulous notes detailing the victims, the chilling circumstances of their deaths, and, most damningly, the precise business advantages that had accrued to members of Cornelius's secret circle as a direct result. She was compiling the ledger of his sins, and this dangerous knowledge would demand the ultimate price. The dawn of December 13th, 1887 arrived, breaking the silence of the winter night, but bringing with it no clarity, only a deepening abyss of mystery. At precisely 6 o'clock in the morning, Margaret Sullivan, the vigilant head housekeeper, arrived to begin her daily duties. What she discovered shattered the meticulous order of the Vandermark mansion and confirmed the first impossible truth. Evangelene was gone. The heavy front door, usually a gateway to the outside world, was locked from the inside. The formidable iron bolt, capable of being engaged only from within the house, was securely in place. No sign of forced entry, no breach. Margaret, trained in the minute details of the mansion's fortress-like security, systematically checked every window on the ground floor. All 12 were latched shut. Their locks, unmarred, showed no signs of tampering. She tested each one personally, her practiced hands confirming their inviolable security. The windows on the second and third floors stood too high to access without a ladder, and Thomas Brennan, the groundskeeper, quickly confirmed that all ladders remained undisturbed in the carriage house, their surfaces pristine, covered by a thin, undisturbed layer of snow that had fallen during the night. And the snow itself, a perfect unbroken blanket of white silence around the mansion's sprawling perimeter, told its own chilling story. There were no footprints, no disturbed patches, no other signs of disturbance whatsoever. If someone had left the house during the night, they had done so without touching the ground, without leaving a single trace. The physical laws of their world had been defied. This was not a disappearance. This was an evaporation, a chilling testament to forces unseen, operating beyond the comprehension of ordinary men, swallowed by Pittsburgh's hidden abyss. The mansion's unnerving silence was shattered by a single horrifying discovery. It was the tableau in the grand foyer that stopped Margaret Sullivan's heart, freezing the very blood in her veins, and sent Charles Henley, the usually unflappable butler, running in a desperate, undignified scramble to fetch Thomas Brennan from the snow-covered grounds. There, arranged with an almost ceremonial precision upon the priceless imported Persian rug that graced the center of the grand foyer, lay Evangeline's emerald evening gown. The garment, a stunning creation of silk and beadwork, shimmered in the weak morning light. Its presence, laid out in such an exact, deliberate manner, was an affront to logic. The fabric, when Margaret's trembling fingers dared to touch it, was still warm, unnaturally so, as if Evangeline herself had only just moments before stepped out of its silken embrace, her body's heat still lingering in its folds. And woven into the cold, crisp morning air of the vast foyer, the undeniable, haunting scent of her signature lavender perfume hung like the ghost of her presence. It was a sensory echo of a woman who was no longer there. A chilling paradox. The garment bore the undeniable warmth and scent of her recent being, yet the woman herself had vanished without a trace, defying the very laws of physics. The gown, a discarded chrysalis, became the central, horrifying piece of an impossible puzzle, screaming of a sudden, forced departure, of a ritualistic disappearance orchestrated by forces unseen. The gilded abyss had claimed its victim, and left only a terrifying, perfumed void. The immediate aftermath was chaos veiled by opulence. Margaret Sullivan's heart-stopping discovery of the warm gown sent ripples of terror through the mansion's impeccable staff. Charles Henley, the unflappable butler, found his professional discretion shattered, his face a mask of dawning horror. Thomas Brennan, the groundskeeper, returned from the pristine, snow-covered perimeter, his testimony only amplifying the impossibility. The mansion was a sealed vault. And yet, Evangelene Vandermark, the vibrant mistress, had simply evaporated. The Pittsburgh Police Department, accustomed to the brutal realities of industrial crime, arrived with their usual cynicism, expecting a simple case of elopement or, more likely, foul play with clear signs of entry. But their skepticism quickly curdled into baffled frustration. Every lock, every window, every undisturbed patch of snow screamed contradiction. They found no forced entry, no footprints, no trace of a struggle. Nothing. Cornelius Vandermark, the steel magnate, moved with a calculated display of grief, exerting his immense political connections. He quietly, yet firmly, steered the direction of the investigation, ensuring its parameters remained strictly within the realm of the physically possible. Any suggestion of an anomaly, of a mystery that defied the tangible, was swiftly, ruthlessly suppressed. The police, pressured by Vandermark's influence, found themselves staring into a void, a disappearance that violated every known law of physics. Their investigation, designed to expose crime, instead stumbled upon a truth that threatened to expose something far more unsettling about the nature of reality itself. The true horror, however, resonated far beyond the mansion's impenetrable walls. Evangeline's relentless investigation had led her to the very heart of the Pittsburgh Circle, that secret cabal of industrialists who would eliminate threats by any means necessary. Her disappearance, so impossible, so utterly devoid of physical trace, pointed to a chilling conclusion. This was their work. Not a crude murder, but an immaculate, terrifying erasure. What if they hadn't simply killed her? What if they had taken her, swallowed her whole, into the hidden abyss of their control? The very thought was more terrifying than death itself. Whispers, cold as the December air, began to circulate among the few trusted servants who witnessed the impossible. They recalled the infamous, mysterious ice house on the estate grounds, a place rarely spoken of, its purpose shrouded in peculiar secrecy. It was a cold, impenetrable structure, designed for preservation, yes, but its very existence now suggested a far more sinister utility, not merely for storing ice or even bodies, but for containing secrets, for holding truths too dangerous to exist in the open world, truths embodied by Evangelene herself. Could she be there, trapped? Or had the Circle, masters of psychological control, found a way to make a person vanish so completely they became a living ghost, lost forever in a psychological prison more terrifying than any physical cell? The very thought sickened them. The official police inquiry, compromised by power and baffled by the impossible, quickly withered. After 6 days, as previously mentioned, the case was officially closed, deemed an unsolved mystery, an aberration. But within the walls of the Vandermark mansion, Evangelene's absence was a palpable presence, a chilling void that echoed with questions. The servants, privy to the impossible facts of her vanishing, found themselves haunted. Every creak of the floorboards, every whisper of the wind, seemed to carry the faint scent of her lavender perfume, a spectral reminder of the woman who had simply ceased to be. The opulent mansion, once a symbol of immense wealth, became a gilded cage of dread, its grandeur now cloaking a profound and unsettling silence. Cornelius Vandermark, the steel magnate, presented a public face of profound yet controlled grief. He commissioned eulogies, funded charities in his wife's name, and retreated into a world of work, seemingly consumed by his loss. But those who knew him, those who had seen the cold calculation in his eyes, suspected a deeper truth. His grief was too precise, too carefully managed. His ambition undimmed. The question remained, was he a victim of an impossible crime, or was he its architect, complicit in a disappearance so profound it defied all understanding? The chilling truth was that Evangelene's investigation had brought her directly into contact with forces far beyond simple criminal enterprise. The vast, intricate web of power and silence that defined industrial Pittsburgh closed ranks around the mystery of Evangelene Vandermark. The official police report, meager and unsatisfying, was deliberately suppressed, buried deep within city archives. The truth of her disappearance, along with the damning evidence she had meticulously compiled against the Pittsburgh Circle, was deemed too dangerous, too destabilizing to ever see the light of day. Cornelius, a master of control, ensured that the full weight of his influence was brought to bear. Any potential leaks were swiftly, ruthlessly contained. Witnesses, like the distraught servants, were quietly dismissed, their silence secured by generous severance packages and the chilling implicit threat of corporate reprisal. The very concept of a millionaire's wife simply vanishing from a locked room, leaving no trace, was deemed too outlandish for public consumption. It would sow chaos, inspire fear, and most importantly, threaten the illusion of order and control maintained by the city's powerful elite. Evangelene Vandermark was effectively ghosted, her existence not just ended but erased from the public record in a way that defied all logical explanation. Her memory persisted only in the terrified whispers among the few who knew the impossible truth. Her name became a cautionary tale in hushed tones, a symbol of the terrifying lengths to which unchecked power would go to protect its secrets. But the chilling question remained. If she didn't leave the mansion and no one entered, where did she go? And what exactly did the Pittsburgh Circle do with her? The disappearance of Evangelene Vandermark stands as one of America's most chilling, unresolved mysteries, a testament to the terrifying capabilities of hidden power. Her case was never officially solved, her body never found, her fate swallowed by the very abyss she sought to expose. The legacy of Pittsburgh's Gilded Age, for all its dazzling prosperity, remains forever tainted by the unspoken horror of her vanishing. It whispers of a systematic campaign of murder, of industrial titans operating beyond law and morality, and of a system so corrupted it could make a human being simply evaporate. Pittsburgh's hidden abyss, the disappearance that claimed a millionaire's wife, 1887, is more than just a historical account. It is a profound journey into the shadows where corporate ambition bleeds into forbidden practice, where psychological control reigns supreme, and where the line between the natural and the supernatural blurs into a terrifying unknown. It serves as a stark reminder that some secrets are too valuable, some truths too dangerous to ever be allowed to surface. Evangelene Vandermark's fate stands as a chilling monument to the price of knowledge, a terrifying echo of a world where wealth can literally make a person disappear. Her final destination, lost to history, leaves us with the unsettling implication. Perhaps she was claimed not by a killer, but by the abyss itself. This knowledge, once heard, cannot be unseen. It will change you. Forever.